Hi, this is Anand. In this clip, we are going to talk about maintain risks, the heart of the system, which is where your input is, which is the form where your risks are imported in. And to access that, we'll have to log in. This is your dashboard when you log in as a project manager. And the concept is the same for a project manager or a portfolio manager. It is absolutely nothing different. So we'll go into the maintain menu. Under that is maintain risks. We'll click on that, and that'll come up with all the risks that are in the system. So we can just go in and use this tab and say add a risk, and that's where you add risk. So you can add a risk title. You can pick which project that risk need to be added in. You need a description, and if you notice, there are some mandatory fields and there are some non-mandatory fields. So you can fill up this form based on that. The data identified. The data identified drives the impact horizon. Value and placement of that particular risk. Critical path drives reporting. So if the risk falls on the critical path of the project from a schedule standpoint, then you need to check this box. If not, you can let it be. The probability is a number between 1 and 100. So you can pick any number you feel the risk has a probability of hitting. And then there is the impact and the severity. So negligible, minor, moderate, significant, or severe. The multiplication between a probability and the impact will give you something that is called the risk exposure, which is a color, and that will be reflective on your risk matrix as well. Risk area. These are now risk area, risk nature, risk status, risk control, and risk response. The 5 items you see here, which are mandatory, and you see drop downs there. So these drop downs are nothing but those that are configured for your project using the configuration menu. So if you configure it differently for different projects, these drop downs will show differently for different projects. So you can add the things you want. The key thing I wanted to mention here is the risk nature field. The risk nature is either a threat or an opportunity. That's what drives the dashboards as well, and the reporting and the number calculations and stuff. So again, what you see here is if risk nature is a threat, then your risk response will default to those values configured for a threat, and you will have down here mitigation steps and contingency steps, because if it's a threat, you need to mitigate that threat and you need to have contingency steps. But what if it's an opportunity? If it's an opportunity, the form is dynamic, and you will see immediately that the risk response will change. It will change to an exploit, enhance, or a share, because if it's an opportunity, you want to enhance it, exploit it, share it, use some other risk response strategy. But if it's a threat, you want to mitigate it, you may want to transfer it, you may want to accept it as well. There are certain other things that need to be done from a risk response standpoint. And if you note, once you change the risk nature to an opportunity, the aggravation steps come in, and the mitigation and the contingency you saw earlier went out, because again, we don't have to mitigate this, you have to aggravate it, because it's an exploitation strategy, or it's an enhancement strategy. So those things need to be aggravated. So opportunities need to be aggravated. The pessimistic, optimistic, and the most likely estimates are for cost impacts of this risk. So again, if you add numbers here, what will happen is this is a PERT estimate. So there's a PERT calculation that goes on, and you get a value. That value, when you multiply it with the probability, will give you the EMV, or the expected monetary value, which I'll show you in a second. So again, you can add aggravation steps, you can add the start date and the end date for that risk. You can add who this risk is assigned to from an owner standpoint. If there is a risk, another risk assigned or related to this risk, you can add that relationship here as well. This is a text field. It doesn't do anything functionally in the system. It drives reports and stuff. Reminders can be set to yes or a no. This is an Outlook reminder, directly into your Outlook as a reminder. And the way this works is the reminder comes in on the day the risk is actually started. The reminder will be put in that calendar, and you can go in and change that reminder based on your needs and how you want to track that risk. Again, notification, there is a toggle between a yes and a no. So every time any change is made to this record, there could be a notification sent. And you can add comments, which will be stored in the comments fields. And again, this is again to encourage good communication practices. You can add risks add documents at any level. So again, you can add documents at a project level, or you can add documents at a risk record level. So this is at a risk record level we are in right now. So you can add any documents you want to store as reference, and that should be it. I'll just quickly show you how the colors come up and how dynamically these things change. So let's look at this particular risk item here. Click Edit to go into that risk, and then if you notice, the probability is 20. The impact is negligible, so the matrix is pretty much 20 multiplied by the negligible impact will give you a risk exposure of a green. Pessimistic, optimistic, most likely calculations will come up with an EMV of 400. So that's how the calculations happen. And again, if you see here, you see how things are stored as well. You have samples and everything else. So I would highly encourage you to play around with this, understand the concepts a little bit, and these are all PMI standards, so Project Management Institute standards. So there's nothing new, there's no rocket science. This is very clean, clear-cut, standard-based activity going on here.